Sons of Hamas leader killed in Gaza as truce talks drag on. Also, European Union adopts contentious asylum law reform. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today. I'm Brendan Lepal. Malaysia and Pakistan have agreed to explore opportunities to strengthen ties between the two countries, especially in trade and investment. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif conveyed the matter during a phone call he received from his Pakistani counterpart last night. During the phone conversation, both leaders wanted to explore opportunities to strengthen Malaysia-Pakistan ties, especially in the field of trade and investment. Datuk Seri Anwar said he also welcomed Shehbaz's proposal to export halal meat from Pakistan to Malaysia. Also discussed were various regional and international issues, including the situation in Gaza and Afghanistan. He said Shehbaz praised Malaysia's stance on the Palestinian issue. The two leaders also expressed hope that the ties between Malaysia and Pakistan would continue to be strengthened. Shehbaz also reiterated his invitation to Datuk Seri Anwar to undertake an official visit to Pakistan as soon as possible. South Korea's Liberal Opposition Party scored a landslide victory in parliamentary election held yesterday, dealing a resounding blow to President Yoon Suk-yeol and his Conservative Party. With all votes counted, data from the National Election Commission showed the Democratic Party taking 175 of the 300 seats in the new legislature. The Democratic Party's parliamentary victory will present its leader, Lee Jae-myung, a great momentum in his pursuit of the presidency. There was initially speculation that Democratic Party could snag a supermajority in the election, which would have opened the door to impeaching Yoon. However, those hopes had faded as tallies came in this morning and the opposition came up short of the 200 seats required. Lee rebounded from his 2022 presidential election loss to lead the Democratic Party with a pledge to punish Yoon through polls. He had long called for the parliamentary elections to serve as a referendum on the president, saying the vote allowed the people to decide whether the government should keep the power or be punished over its two-year governance. Yoon has suffered low ratings for months, hamstrung in implementing his pledges to cut taxes, ease business regulations and expand family support in the world's fastest aging society. Japan has discharged only 1% of nuclear-contaminated water from the damaged Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant so far, with wastewater decreasing by a meager 19,000 tons since the plan took effect. According to data from Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, the plant's operator, as of 4th April, approximately 1.32 million tons of nuclear-contaminated water remain at the Fukushima site. TEPCO has planned to conduct 7 rounds of water discharge during the current fiscal year, taking into account the addition of treatment equipment. In August 2023, Japan started to discharge the Fukushima wastewater into the Pacific Ocean, despite repeated domestic and international objections. By the end of March, 4 rounds of discharge had been completed, releasing about 31,200 tons of nuclear-contaminated water. However, due to the continuous production of contaminated water, the total stored volume was reduced by only 19,000 tons. Hit by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake and an ensuing tsunami on 11 March 2011, the Fukushima nuclear power plant suffered core meltdowns that released radiation, resulting in a level 7 nuclear accident, the highest on the international nuclear and radiological event scale. In other news, the leader of Hamas said Israel had killed 3 of his sons in an airstrike in Gaza as a war in the Palestinian territory raged despite ongoing truce negotiations in Cairo. Qatar-based Ismail Haniyeh said his 3 sons and some of his grandchildren had been killed in the strike in an interview with Al Jazeera. The strike came as talks in Cairo aimed at a ceasefire and a hostage release deal dragged on without signs of a breakthrough. Israel did not immediately comment on the strikes. The United States has been ramping up pressure on Israel to agree to a truce, increase the amount of aid it allows into Gaza Strip, and abandon plans to invade the southern city of Rafah. US President Joe Biden labeled Israel's conduct of the war a mistake in an interview broadcast recently. Yesterday marked the first day of the Eid al-Fitr holiday, marked the end of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, with Gazans gathering to pray amid the devastation of the 6-month war. More than 1.5 million civilians are sheltering from the war in Rafah, the last Gazan city yet to face an Israeli ground invasion. The United States has repeatedly warned against an invasion, although it said it believed an invasion of Rafah was not imminent. Biden, meanwhile, did not hide his growing frustration with the hawkish Netanyahu and issued some of his sternest criticism yet of the war. And elsewhere, Yemen's Houthis said they targeted 4 vessels, including what they described as a US warship with drones and naval missiles in the Gulf of Aden. The group's military spokesman Yahya Saria said in a televised speech that the Iran-aligned group attacked MSC Darwin ship, MSC Gina, Maersk, Yorktown, along with the US destroyer. Months of Houthi attacks in the Red Sea have disrupted global shipping, forcing firms to reroute to longer and more expensive journeys around southern Africa, and stoked fears that the Israel-Hamas war could spread to destabilize the wider West Asia. The United States and Britain have carried out strikes against Houthi targets in response to the attacks on shipping.
في القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى 4 عمليات عسكرية صباح يومنا هذا، وعلى النحو التالي: استهداف سفينتين إسرائيليتين، الأولى سفينة MSC داروين والأخرى سفينة MSC جينا، والتي تم استهدافها مجددا وذلك في خليج عدن. استهداف سفينة ميرسك يورك تاون الأمريكية وذلك في خليج عدن. استهداف سفينة حربية أمريكية في خليج عدن بعدد من الطائرات المسيرة. إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية مستمرة في تأدية واجبها الديني والأخلاقي والإنساني تجاه الشعب الفلسطيني المظلوم ودفاعا عن اليمن العزيز. وإن عملياتها في البحرين الأحمر والعربي وفي المحيط الهندي مستمرة حتى وقف العدوان ورفع الحصار عن الشعب الفلسطيني في غزة.
On another note, Germany's Lufthansa said after careful evaluation, it decided to suspend flights to and from Tehran due to the current situation in West Asia. Countries in the region and the United States have been on high alert and preparing for a possible attack by Iran in response to a suspected bombing by Israeli warplanes of the Iranian consulate in Syria on 1st April. A spokesperson for the company told Reuters they are constantly monitoring the situation in the West Asia and are in close contact with the authorities, adding that the safety of their guests and crew members is Lufthansa's top priority. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said that Israel, quote, must be punished, and it shall be, for attacking the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. In an apparent response to Khamenei, Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz said that Israel will respond if Iran attacks Israel from its own soil. Iran-backed groups that have entered the fray across the region since Israel launched its invasion of Gaza following the 7 October strikes on southern Israel by Hamas. According to the health ministry in Gaza, more than 33,000 Palestinians have been killed in 6 months of Israeli bombardment of Gaza. In other news, a man stabbed and killed 1 person and injured another before being killed by police as he fled in the southwestern French city of Bordeaux. Police sources said the motive of the attack was not known, but there was so far no indication of terrorism. The stabbing struck at about 8 p.m. local time in a busy district on the banks of the Garonne River. According to police source, it was likely to be a brawl with an unknown motive. Security concerns are high in France as Paris prepares to host the Olympic Games in July and August. Yesterday's attack was the latest of several deadly stabbings to shock France in recent years. On 3rd February, 3 people were injured in a knife attack at Paris's Gare de Lyon railway station. Police said a suspect with psychiatric problems was arrested in that case. Now, the EU Parliament has adopted a contentious reform of Europe's asylum policies that will harden border procedures and force all the bloc's 27 nations to share responsibility. The Parliament's main political groups overcame opposition from far-right and far-left parties to pass the new Migration and Asylum Pact, a sweeping reform nearly a decade in the making. The Pact's measures are to come into force in 2026 after the European Commission sets out in coming months how it would be implemented.
The European Parliament has just voted in favour of a new way forward on asylum and migration. We have listened, we have acted, and we have delivered on one of the main concerns of people across Europe.
The new border centres would hold irregular migrants while their asylum requests are vetted and speed up deportations of those deemed inadmissible. It would also require EU countries to take in thousands of asylum seekers from frontline states such as Italy and Greece. Alternately, they could provide money or other resources to the under-pressure nations. Under current EU rules, the arrival country bears responsibility for hosting and vetting asylum seekers and returning those deemed inadmissible. That has put southern states under pressure and fueled far-right sentiment. And still ahead, US and Japan hail defense boosts with eye on China. Stay with us. That later. Now, Switzerland said it would organize a high-level peace conference for Ukraine in mid-June, but without Russia, which promptly slammed the event as a US-orchestrated plot. Ukraine and up to 100 countries would attend the conference at a luxury Burgenstock resort near the central city of Lucerne on 15 and 16 June, which Swiss President Viola Amherd said she would host.
C'est un premier pas sur le processus pour une paix durable en Ukraine. Alors on ne va pas signer le plan de paix à cette conférence. Il y aura, ça on pense, une deuxième conférence, mais on veut commencer avec cette conférence, le processus.
Russia, which invaded Ukraine in February 2022 and whose forces are putting Ukraine under new pressure, meanwhile, immediately condemned the event as being part of a scheme by US President Joe Biden's Democratic Party ahead of this year's presidential election. Switzerland hopes to include Russia in later talks. Amherd said while Russia will not be there, more than 100 other countries will be invited, with invites to go out in coming days. According to Swiss Foreign Minister Ignacio Cassis, the United States has confirmed its participation, while China had sounded positive about the initiative. Floods engulf cities and towns across Russia and Kazakhstan after Europe's third longest river burst its banks, forcing about 110,000 people to evacuate and swamping parts of the Russian city of Orenburg. The deluge of meltwater overwhelmed scores of settlements in Russia's Ural Mountains, Siberia, Volga and areas of Kazakhstan after major rivers such as the Ural, which flows into the Caspian, rose more 70 centimeter or 2 foot 3 inches beyond its bursting point to over 10 meters. Meanwhile, in Kazakhstan, people worked through the night to build up dikes and strengthen embankments. A state of emergency remained in effect in 8 of the country's 17 provinces, down from 10 at the end of last week. President Vladimir Putin spoke to President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev of Kazakhstan about the floods, and the Kremlin said the worst was still to come for Russia's Siberian region of Tyumen and the Ural region of Kurgan. And moving on, President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida unveiled the biggest ever upgrades in US-Japan defense ties during a lavish White House state visit aimed at countering a rising China. Biden was rolling out the red carpet for Kishida as he sought to underscore the importance of Japan as a crucial ally in the Asia-Pacific region against Beijing. The US president said their relations were unbreakable and that their agreement set a new benchmark for our military cooperation. The two leaders unveiled plans to restructure the US military command in Japan, the biggest such change since the 1960s, while the United States, Japan and Australia would also launch a joint air defense network. The move is aimed at making US and Japanese forces more nimble in the event of a crisis such as a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. The upgrade comes amid tensions about Beijing's claims over both Taiwan and huge swathes of the South China Sea, despite efforts by Washington to reduce the risk of conflicts. Biden insisted that the military upgrade in China's backyard alliance was, quote, purely defensive and not aimed at any one nation or a threat to the region. Kishida meanwhile called for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. Donald Trump's former finance chief, Allen Weisselberg, was jailed for 5 months for perjury after he admitted lying to prosecutors as they investigated the former president for fraudulently inflating his wealth. Weisselberg, 76, was the chief financial officer of Trump's real estate and entertainment group from 2005 to 2021. The jailing of Weisselberg, who pleaded guilty to 2 counts of perjury related to his 2020 questioning during the fraud probe, comes less than a week before Trump is due to go on trial for covering up hush money payments to hide a sex scandal. In return for admitting that he lied when discussing Trump's valuation of the mogul's New York penthouse apartment, Weisselberg agreed with prosecutors to be sentenced to a lesser term of 5 months imprisonment. According to the plea document, the offences for which he was charged carried prison terms of up to 7 years. Prosecutors also agreed not to seek further charges against Weisselberg linked to his time at the Trump Organization. On 16 February, Trump was hit with a $355 million penalty, significantly more including interest, after being found liable for fraudulently manipulating the value of his properties to obtain favorable conditions on loans and insurance. On to South America, former Colombian President Álvaro Uribe said there was no proof to back up charges that he engaged in fraud and witness tampering. The former president called the long-running legal case against him political revenge. Uribe made his remarks the day after the Colombian Attorney General's office said it had presented a written accusation in the case to the Supreme Court. The right-wing politician could face up to 12 years in prison if convicted in a trial.
Me abren las puertas de la cárcel sin prueba, con las pruebas al contrario, por suposiciones, ánimos políticos y la necesidad de igualar a quien no ha delinquido con quien lo ha hecho.
Uribe, who was president from 2002 to 2010 and oversaw a military offensive against leftist guerrilla groups, is being investigated along with several allies over allegations of witness tampering carried out in an attempt to discredit accusations he had ties to right-wing paramilitaries. The first Colombian ex-president to face a trial under the country's regular justice system, Uribe has always maintained his innocence. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said that he will offer mediation to achieve political peace in Venezuela after meeting with his Venezuelan counterpart in Caracas recently. Petro said he had also met with sectors of the opposition but made no direct mentions. The leader and Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro held a closed-door meeting on Tuesday in Caracas, where issues on the agenda included diplomatic cooperation, border security, trade, economy and energy.
Y fundamentalmente una intermediación colombiana, una mediación colombiana para lograr la paz política en Venezuela. He hablado con el presidente Maduro de una propuesta que le he hecho y con sectores de la oposición, quizás los más importantes en este momento, para lograr que este país pueda tener paz política. La paz política en Venezuela puede ser también
The meeting took place after the Colombian government criticized the banning of Venezuelan opposition figures from running as candidates in July presidential elections. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who resoundingly won the opposition primaries last October, cannot run because she is barred from holding public office, a decision she says is unfair. Argentine police arrested 10 people at a Buenos Aires anti-austerity protest that left several injured in clashes. Hundreds of demonstrators, angry about social spending cuts, hurled stones at police, who responded with water cannons, pepper spray and rubber bullets. Government aid to soup kitchens was stopped in December after self-declared anarcho-capitalist President Javier Milei took office. His government has also slashed transport and energy subsidies. Wage earners have lost a fifth of their purchasing power amid annual inflation exceeding 270%. According to figures from the Pontifical Catholic University's Social Debt Observatory, almost 6 out of 10 Argentine are living in poverty, a significant jump from 49% measured when Milei took office. One of the new government's first measures was to tighten protest laws by prohibiting demonstrators from impeding traffic, as they sought to do yesterday until police stepped in. 4 months into Milei's government, street demonstrations are a near daily occurrence in the capital. Protesters are also angry at a new wave of dismissals announced by the government last week that will see 15,000 public servants lose their jobs. And in sports, Rafinha and Christensen conjure slim advantage as Barcelona edge PSG. Stay with us. On home soil, national men's doubles pair Gozafe and Noor Izzuddin Rumzani created a sensation when they ousted world champions Kang Min-hyuk and Seo Seung-jae of South Korea in straight games in the first round of the 2024 Badminton Asia Championships BAC in Ningbo, China, yesterday. The world number 19 Malaysians played magnificently to knock out the world number 1 pair from South Korea 21-13, 21-18 in just 44 minutes. The reward for the smashing display is a second round date with world number 11 He Jiting and Ren Jiangyu of China. There was more good news for the national men's doubles camp when Aaron Chia and So Bo-yik defeated their opponents to also check into the second round. Aaron Bo-yik overcame India's Hariharan Amsa Karunan and Ruben Kumar Retina Sabapati 21-15, 21-14. In the second round, Aaron Bo-yik will take on Japan's Kenya Mitsuhashi and Hiroki Okamura later today. Moving on to football, Brazil forward Rafinha scored twice to help Barcelona secure a 3-2 win at Paris Saint-Germain in a lively Champions League quarter-final first leg. Xavi Hernandez's side dominated proceedings early on against the French side, still looking for a first Champions League crown. Rafinha gave the visitors the lead with a rebound strike in the 37th minute after goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma failed to clear a cross from his box. However, PSG looked transformed after the break, with manager Luis Enrique switching things up and bringing on forward Bradley Barcola for Marco Asensio. The attacking change resulted in the equaliser in the 48th minute when Ousmane Dembélé smashed the ball into the top corner. Barca was still reeling when the hosts took the lead through Vitinha, who stroked the ball in 2 minutes later from a quick counter-attack. But Rafinha's deft volley in the 62nd minute from a brilliant long pass by substitute Pedri brought the match level again, silencing the home crowd. Andreas Christensen then took advantage of a static Donnarumma to jump unchallenged in the 6-yard box and hit in from a corner 13 minutes from time to give the Spanish side a narrow advantage going into next week's second leg. In another match, Atletico Madrid struck twice in a dominant first half but had to survive a late fight back from Borussia Dortmund before earning a 2-1 win in their Champions League quarter-final first leg early today. The Spaniards, looking for their first semi-final spot in 7 years, put the visitors on the back foot with a frenetic high-pressing game. And it paid off after 4 minutes with Dortmund keeper Gregor Kobel delaying a pass to Ian Madsen and Rodrigo de Paul intercepting it to slot in. Only 3 minutes later, Kobel pulled off a sensational one-handed save to push Axel Witzel's backheel flick over the bar, but the Germans were seriously struggling to get the ball out of their own half. Their best chance was a slow show by Madsen that Atletico keeper Jan Oblak pushed wide. The Spanish side scored again, courtesy of another defensive blunder as Samuel Lino, who will miss the return leg next week after being booked, doubled their lead in the 32nd from an Antoine Griezmann's assist. The introduction of Julian Brandt after the break instantly gave Dortmund more push-up front, but Lino forced another superb Kobel save before Sebastian Haller cut the deficit in the 81st minute to improve the Germans' odds going into next Tuesday's return leg. Still in football, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has told his side to prepare for a super disciplined Atalanta when they face the Italian team in a Europa League quarter-finals at Anfield tomorrow morning. Atalanta knocked out Portuguese side Sporting Lisbon in the previous round but have just won 2 of their last 9 matches in all competitions. Nevertheless, Klopp expects Atalanta, managed by long-serving boss Gian Piero Gasperini, to pose Liverpool problems.
Obviously, now only great teams left in the competition. It's really outstanding. So, and we know what Atalanta is all about. Gasperini is doing an incredible job there for years and years. And it's difficult to play against Italian teams, always was. They're tactically super disciplined and super dangerous in a lot of areas. So we have to be at our best to get into the next round with over these 2 legs.
Klopp in his last season at Anfield also said there was a chance Diogo Jota, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Alisson Becker, all injured since February, could feature against Atalanta. The German added that it was always a challenge to reintegrate the guys, but with the quality they have, it should be a bit easier, and the team will use them in the next days and weeks. And that's it from us in our top story. Sons of Hamas leader killed in Gaza as truce talks drag on. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Brenda Paul. Thank you for watching. Take care.